All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. A 4-pack. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, Frankie Corrado. What a scene we have right now up on TV, radio, streaming. Frankie looks good. Everyone's happy. It's amazing in here.
What's going on here?
How are we
What
feeling?
guy's face are we talking about? Is it mine?
Well, I think it's your face. I don't know. I've seen some language and some stuff in that group chat here while I've been on the road where I'm not sure what's going on. I'd actually like to hear
Russian
both
bots.
sides.
Luke Willson is convinced that Al's brother is bringing in Russian bots. And it's a problem.
It's the most absurd accusation, I think, in the history of this show.
I thought
accusation at that.
I thought
Yes.
he would let it go after a while. Now he's screenshotting bots that are following Al's brother saying, which one of these is making these things up? Do you care to comment? And he will not let it go.
Yeah, I will say, as someone who I guess is kind of taking some shrapnel here, too, because I share a team with Al's brother, and Al's brother and I are cooking noodles. You've been on the road with Ottawa.
Yes.
The Sens are going one way. Hayes and Bro are going the complete opposite way.
The Sens need Hayes and Bro.
That's right. They need Al's
honestly.
brother down there for a little pep talk before the game and some bots to possibly, pump their tires. But I will say the screen grabs, they are somewhat incriminating. Like, they are the goofiest. It's like Gary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Or it's like Tucker's helmet 1, 2, 7, 5, 5, 4, 5. Corson's stick, Robert's glove. It's just it's bots.
Yes, but it's very supportive, and yes, we appreciate that support. Right?
I
It's all
don't
good.
understand, though. Like, my question is, what did the bots have to do with you guys losing and pissing away
Nothing.
like a lead?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. It's like, okay, bots, but people claim about the election being stolen or whatever. What's being
Noodles,
stolen
it's
here?
just like a defenseman that throws a pizza behind the net and just right on the guy's tape, and then he'll get to the bench and say to the winger, "Where were you there?" It's like, no, that was you throwing a pizza. I was where I was supposed to be.
Right.
It's
Luke
just
and
trying to focus on the blame on something else.
Luke and I were sitting up in the boardroom before we were doing Jay's show the other night, and we were trying to go through some of his old tweets to see, which are the bot accounts. And then you see this hashtag, TIGI. What does that mean? Is that tremendous information, gut instinct in a hashtag?
That's exactly what it is.
That's a red flag right away because that's got bot written all over it.
I will admit that if people that are not affiliated with the ridiculousness of Al's brother and I and our goofy, wolf pack and the TG stuff, if other people are starting to perpetuate that might be a bit of a red flag.
Yes.
But
Noodles, I will announce, I don't know if you saw, Rod Smith is now the director of football operations.
I just, I wanted to chime in yesterday. I'm like, why drag this, beautiful man, this amazing person? Why drag him into this nonsense? He has literally been a pillar and the face of TSN for 25 years.
He's the best. And the bots are on him now. That's the thing. Al's brother is sending his bots at Rod. So Rod's got to handle the bots. And I will say Al's brother, he's had some good lines over the years on that group chat of ours. He hit Luke with an absolute death shot on Monday night because, as we know, Luke Willson loves Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll.
This
hates Matt
Luke
Patricia.
almost got on his bicycle and rode it to Al's brother's condo after this comment.
I honestly was like, Al's brother, you're pushing your luck, man. That guy will stuff you in a locker somewhere. Because Al's brother, after Drew Lock charges down the field, Al's brother writes, "In Pete we trust." Patricia got. Like, with the clown symbol beside Patricia, and
But
Luke had no response.
Even worse, he goes to the post-game speech and says, "How do you not ride with this guy?" Or something stupid. And you see Pete Carroll running around, jumping around the locker room. I'm like, this guy's gone too far.
Yeah,
You know what was tough about that whole scene? Like I said, we're sitting there watching the game. Luke goes down to do his hit with Jay. So now he's sitting at the desk with Jay when that touchdown happens. And I go peek over the railing to see what's going on, and I could see Luke is on his phone, and all these messages are popping up, and it's the group chat. And now he's got to go live on Jay and have the persona as the ex-Seahawk guy, the Pete Carroll guy, completely different than what he's feeling based on what we just watched and the pick that he had in the game.
Oh, yeah, we were blown. I was watching that postgame. That postgame is brilliant. Him and Jay sitting there breaking down games is just incredible TV. And knowing that the group chat is popping up and he could probably see it through the peripheral vision makes it that much better. But good to see you guys, Noodles. We haven't seen you. You've been on the road with Ottawa. And what happened last night? You were calling that.
You saw me briefly. Well, you saw me briefly on Monday after the firing. Was it Monday that we chatted for about half an hour? The firing of DJ. I don't know. I thought about it. And Frankie, I actually watched your clip there last night I think it was on Jay. You nailed it. Like, they were rolling, and it would have actually been easier for them to just win the new coach bump. And, hey, it's all DJ's fault. It's all this. Where their ghosts creeped up, and it's like that's been the problem with this group. They were world beaters. They're up 3-0. They chased the goaltender. We've seen it. We saw it in Dallas. We saw it the game before. And in Vegas, actually, they were up 2-0, and they're feeling pretty good. But it just – the game management, the game within the game, and you could just feel it. Being in the building last night, I was laughing to myself because, Hayes, I'm in this, I'm in the Arizona State building, and it is rocking. Like, the roof almost came off because for the first 2 periods, I'm out, like, quiet, and the band's there, people, there's cheerleaders, there's like they want to get after it, and Arizona scores late. And you could just feel it shift.
It's a
and
gong
I kept
show,
saying,
I can't believe it.
I kept saying on air.
I can't either. And guys, I don't know if you agree or disagree. A couple things on this. Yeah. One thing is the Buffalo Sabres and the Ottawa Senators. You love your young players. You want to lock them up long term. You want to pay them all. But for both teams not to be sniffing around playoffs or even playing meaningful games in the spring, I'm telling you right now, you can't slough it off and say, well, roll it back and we'll do it again next year. And then hopefully we're playing meaningful games in the spring. Maybe the young players you got, and if you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and you want to goof on the Leafs and say, you know what, they can't get past the first round or whatever, at least when they were young, they qualified for the playoffs and at least they had a chance. These teams are looking like, again, they're not going to have a chance. Therefore, I think you have to look at the rosters and all of these players. If you want to separate them and put them on an individual board and go crazy over their stats, you can do that. But maybe all of them together, they're just not good enough to win. It doesn't work. And it's what bugs me about the league where it's like long-term deal. How long can you wait for these guys to do it? Like, to be not even sniffing near the playoffs, I think it has to be concerning where you look at it and say, maybe we got to move some of these guys out for different guys. And Vegas is an extreme example of getting different guys in, and they made it work, and they won the Stanley Cup. But just to keep saying these are the guys that are going to get it done. The second thing is Tim Stützle, put him on right wing. He's not a centerman. I do not think that kid's a centerman. If you look at the way he plays, I think he's a Pavel Bure type player. The way he skates, the way he wants to operate. I don't see him as a guy that wants to dig in the corners and do center iceman work. So when that Pinto comes back, put him at center ice and put the kid on right wing. Go ahead.
I mean, those are fair points. The one thing I would say, like, there's you can't argue against that because the proof is in the pudding. Yeah. But
Noodles, they do the same things every night. They play the same game every night. It's like, come on, guys.
I've said this before, though. Your top players have to play like top players. And that's when you look at it. When we saw Edmonton hit the ditch at the start of the season, it wasn't Derek Ryan that was going to dig them out. It was going to be McDavid and Draisaitl. It was going to be Nurse. It was going to be the spine of their team. You just mentioned Tim Stützle. He's over a point a game. He's not playing to his capabilities.
No,
he's a really good player. Josh Norris. All of these guys, they're a fragile team. They're not playing with confidence. I'm not ready yet, just based on with that group, to just blow it up. But I will say
I'm not talking about blowing it up, Noodles. I'm saying maybe all of them together. You got to change up the mix a little bit,
and that's fair because Brady Tkachuk said yesterday in his media, coach has been fired. Next step is the players. And the players, if the guys aren't getting it done, then the new management takes a look. And here's the thing. The new management has no allegiance.
No ties
They
to
didn't
these
sign
guys.
these guys. So they're going to take a look at it and go, who do we like? Who do we not like? Who are we going to move away from? What decisions are we going to make? But, that's ultimately the story.
Here's where I think Buffalo or Ottawa should feel better about their situation than Buffalo. It's that they have a new owner. Because I think a lot of the issues start at the top. I don't think there's any question the previous owner in Ottawa was not fully committed to winning all the time. And I don't think Terry Pegula has not been a positive for the Buffalo Sabres. Not even close. In terms of the way that they invest in management, what you hear about what they invest in scouting, their coaching, I don't think they've gone big game hunting. I don't. I think a lot of it has been, coaches on the cheap, management on the cheap. I think there's a bit of a catch-22 also in terms of committing to the younger players.
They committed a lot of money to those guys.
They committed a lot to them. And listen, individually, you look at the players, you're like, Rasmus Dahlin, yeah, pay him. Tim Stützle, yeah, pay him. But because there's been such a culture of losing there, they're also terrified that those guys are going to leave the first chance they get, so the players end up with a lot of leverage. And I think, you mentioned Vegas in the extreme there. And you know where I stand on the helicopter coming in and a lot of the goofiness down there, but I have had to take a step back. Vegas has been a resounding success. Bill Foley has been a brilliant owner down there and a victorious and winning owner. And I think the one guy you can look at as to explain the difference between culture is Jack Eichel. Where Eichel was up here in Buffalo, and it was a disaster, and he was mopey, and then he'd take the blame, and it was like, get him out, he stinks. Goes to Vegas, gets surrounded by the right people. The guy's a rock star every single night.
How about Ryan O'Reilly, Hayes?
O'Reilly couldn't wait to get out, and he wins.
He said it. Lost his love for the game. He goes to St. Louis, wins a Stanley Cup. Robin Lehner, same thing. It's almost at the point with Ottawa, and Rasmus Ristolainen had some comments about Torts the other day where he said, I wish I had Torts when I was younger, when I was really developing, because that really would have helped me. This Ottawa team is almost at the point where they need like Patrick Waugh in there, where he's just going to go in, he's going to ruffle some feathers, and he's going to hold everyone accountable, and those guys aren't going to like it, but you're going to weed out like who's for real and who isn't with a guy like that.
I think Jacques going to figure that out. Jacques Martin is going to figure that out, and he's going to give him an ultimatum. The guy's 71 years old. Who in the hell knows what he's going to do after this year? And he's going to say to them, I don't care. I'm leaving after this year anyway, but I'm not going to let you guys go out there and do this. So either you do it my way or you're not going to do it at all. You can sit your ass on the bench. You all got paid. You're all getting paid. I'm not going to watch you blow by checks, throw pizzas up the middle, backhand passes into the slot. If you want to do that, you're not going to play. Well, and that might click after that.
I agree with you, but then the next stage is Martin going upstairs to Staios and saying, this is not a guy you want. I don't care. He's got 7 years left. You got to get rid of him.
Stevie Staios is a smart guy.
I agree with you.
He will not need to be told that.
Well, then we'll see if he acts on it.
I think what it is unfortunately you get the next couple of months is evaluation. Like I talked to Jacques Martin at length yesterday morning. He did his media and was very gracious with his time. I don't know how many times he said evaluation, teaching. He said it was tough because obviously they're playing every second day. So he's like, we don't have practice to go through. So he said, I'm going to have to go through video and point details. I've had Jacques. I had him in Florida. He's a detail-oriented guy. He's not a yeller. He's not a screamer. He's not a guy that is, leans in and says something to press a button. He's a very tactical coach. And I was talking to somebody earlier, and I said, that is where, and I'll tie this into the Leaf game last night, that Rangers team. Like that Laviolette has them, he's a guy that's got a presence. Like, and I've said this all along, like you look at these coaches now that are really successful. Some of them have this presence about them. Bruce Cassidy's got a presence. Peter DeBoer's got a presence. They don't have to be mean to the players, but they're firm with honesty.
Peter Laviolette has a great presence, Noodles. When he showed up in Carolina, everybody walks in the room, and there's just all of his game plans are mapped out on the board, and it was like fresh, it was intense, and it's like, okay, this is a lot different. You go out on the ice, his practices were way different than Paul Maurice, who had been there a long time. And he's a guy that the record speaks for itself. When he shows up on sight on scene, the results are there.
They win.
First year.
They win. They win. In Philly, went to the Cup his first year. Nashville, I think it was his third year.
Carolina's second year, won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, and another guy should throw in there's Rick Tocchet. You're sitting on the bench, you turn around, you see that face staring at you. Like, you're going to want to dig in.
They keep digging in, and they keep winning in Vancouver.
It's interesting, but you like, go back to last night's game, the Arizona game. You could see kind of the warts creep into the game where their game management unable to, when you give up one, they couldn't stop the second one. They couldn't stop the third one, and then the fourth one goes off to a skate, and, that they're done. But when it's going bad, it's almost like everything. It snowballs. How do you stop that? That's the question. It's who's digging you out, and how do you stop it?
Yep. And sometimes it's quite literal. You just need to stop. Like, there are times where in the third period you're like, I need you to stop. I don't care if it's 25 shots. You have to do us a favor tonight.
That third one last night, was that the Keller one, right, Noodles?
Keller one,
and you were like, as the play was coming up the ice, I think you were saying, now Arizona's going to push. You're going to have to manage the game. 2 seconds later, it's in the back of the net. Scored. Yeah, there's Johnny Abbott scores. Like, I guess they didn't manage the game there. But I actually, like, sitting there watching that, I was thinking of Dougie Roach as that was happening. It was like, it was a little reverse in the neutral zone, kind of like they do in football.
What's he doing?
What's he? Split the D? Roof Daddy! And then me and Kyle Lawson looked at each other. Look at that! They just blew a 3-0 lead. Look at this. Look at that.
Look at this. Look at that. Well, that's Ottawa right now. Edmonton's now lost 3 in a row. And, you look at the Leafs last night where I think most of us expected the Rangers would show up and bring something to the table. And there were the 3 kind of fluky, goofy bounces and an empty netter, but the Rangers didn't fluke out 2 points. Like, I thought they showed up to play, especially early in the game last night. But, Matthews returns in pots too, and albeit it's in a loss, I think they'll get back onto the horse tomorrow night. They got Buffalo. You better be careful
Buffalo. With that.
I know.
Be careful with that. That place has ghosts for the Maple Leafs, man.
Absolutely. They've already lost to them, I believe, this year. Eerily similar to Columbus a week ago Thursday, where it's like, you'll take them down, and we saw what happened. So the Leafs have got to show up to play, no question. But
do you go back with Jones?
I would. I mean, that's what I was about to say, Noodles, is the bounces were strange, but they weren't on him. You know what I mean? Like, there were a couple of really goofy bounces that just
I didn't like the Schneider goal. That's that go-ahead goal. I didn't like that one. And Schneider whiffed it. Like, he went to go upstairs, and Jones kind of went, playing it like he was going to go up. Yeah. Outside of that, I thought Jones was rock solid again. The first goal, I couldn't even tell you how the hell that went in. I still don't to this day. The only one is, we're watching it right now, but Schneider kind of drives hard. Who was he driving hard on? Tavares, right?
Well, McCabe had a bad pin. That's the only real mistake that they made. I made this point after the game. Early on, it was like back and forth, turnover, a little bit of a track meet. Nothing happens in the game, but you're thinking, if it's going to be like this, it's going to be, last mistake is going to be the one that costs you. That's really the only mistake the Leafs made on the night, because they have 3 go in off weird bounces.
Yeah. And Keith said that after the game. I mean, over the course of 82 games, it's not like you're going to lose some games where you're not disappointed with your effort or your execution. It just doesn't go your way. And again, the Rangers are a good team. The Rangers, you're going to create some bounces from time to time, and you get up and you move on. But I would go back to Jones personally, because I agree with your assessment, Noodles. I thought he played well. I think he's been consistent, and I don't think it's going to last forever. Like, at some point it's going to dip. So maybe you take advantage of him in the zone right now, right? You allow him to do that.
That Samsonov scares me. I got to be honest with you. Like, I don't know if he's closer to anti-Ranta or what the deal is. But how many more gas can games can he allow? I don't know. I don't know how long you can watch that.
He's got to change his attitude, though, too, right? Like, I can only imagine his vibe around the team. It's
the best league in the world. The guy's been around for 5 or 6 years. The attitude is what it is. Like, you can go up to him and say, hey, you got to have a better attitude. You guys have said that to me before, but guess what? I show up the next day with a bad attitude.
Well, exactly, but then you put on a good show. It's my I can accept the bad attitude with a .918 save percentage. I can't with an .885. Is my point. If you're leaking oil on the ice, and then afterwards you're like, I suck, I stink. Like, at some point it's just how is the team going to have confidence in you when you clearly don't have any in yourself?
Do you remember the conversations
it's a big thing,
we'd have? No, you're right. But you remember the conversations we'd have about Jack Campbell? Jack Campbell, the waves of, everything was a bad goal. The worst goal I ever gave up. The worst game I ever played. Apologizing. Like, it was always, it was the waves of it was so high, so low. Like, guys just want and you guys can speak to this, but I've witnessed it. They want somebody who just they want a Hellebuck's demeanor.
Yeah.
Guy can give up a 7 spot. He just
I know,
looks
but
like
Noodles,
he's,
I think the
crazy person.
The one thing that's consistent with the guys that we're talking about is sometimes when you pull them off the scrap heap, when there's some burning turdish stuff surrounding them, it's just a matter of time before it's like Jack Campbell got picked off the scrap heap. He was like in the East Coast in the AHL, and then he had that rise, and then all of a sudden it kind of crashed a little bit. And then he got sent to the minors where they just said, we can't do this anymore. It's like Samsonov, he was kind of on that garbage heap, and you're like, you pull him off, he has that year last year. You got to track it and watch it because you don't know where it's going to go.
Dude, you know how it is, right? Like you'll be playing and it's not going well. Everyone will put you in a good position. Coach is going to talk to you. He's going to do video with you. The guys are going to come up to you. Hey, bud, it's okay. Like, we need you out there. Everyone's going to be nice to you. At the end of the day, it's your responsibility to find a way to perform. It's almost like you got to work through all that muck.
Thank you very much.
And
it's the
you
best
get paid.
league in the world. Sometimes you got to man up and just go out there and do it.
You got to get through some dark times, man. You really do, because it's an unforgiving league no matter who you are. Connor McDavid went through a stretch this year where he couldn't do anything right. That's the best player in the world, the best player we've seen in decades, and he even goes through it. So maybe some guys don't come out of it.
You know what the problem is, Frank, with a lot of these younger guys? They've had people kissing their ass since they're 13 years old, and it's never anybody else's fault. And then they get to the big leagues, and it's like, well, you're not playing well enough, and you got to be way better than what you are. And they look at them like they're shocked because they've never heard it before, and they don't know how to deal with adversity, and they're not used to anybody telling them that they're not good enough. It's insane.
He heard it in arbitration, though. I guarantee you that. I mean, this is why they took him there, is because they were not going to commit long term to this guy. You know, that's another one. Not that we need to go down this hypothetical road, but everyone's playing the Trey Living Dubas deal. I wouldn't be shocked if Dubas gave him a 3-year deal, 4-year deal, or something like that if he was still a GM.
I don't know, Hayes. He passed on Jack Campbell after that year.
He did.
He would have felt pressure to maybe lock up Jack. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he did the same thing. Yeah,
it's a moot point, but still,
in hindsight.
That was a dirty play, Hazy. You went down a dirty road.
I'm just wondering aloud.
I felt like Jonas there. I felt like I had a little Jonas come out in me there.
You did. You were playing the role of our buddy Jonas.
You think about it though, guys. Like, think about right now where the league. And we'll just say it. I mean, I've said it a million times. The league should just be called goalie. Because if you've got good goaltending, the teams, and if you've got stable goaltending and a good team, you're a really good team. If you don't have it, man, you're struggling. I looked at something, and there's got to be 6 or 7 teams right now that need goaltenders. Like, at least need one to play in a tandem situation with the other guy they like or, kind of like. I don't know where Toronto's in that situation. Joseph Woll's going to come back, but we're looking at a 6 to 8 weeks probably. High ankle sprain with a goalie that you've got to push side to side, right? So I hope he comes back sooner, and I hope he just jumps back on the train and plays well. But I'll throw Toronto in there softly. Throw Edmonton in there.
They're on the edges of it, for sure.
Right, okay, so Carolina is trying out Aaron Dell on a PTO.
Yep.
Like, at least they're trying, okay? Ranta's on waivers. LA doesn't have a goaltender into next season under contract, so you have to include them there. Like, go right through the league. Does Colorado trust Georgiev and then whoever's behind them? You know what I mean?
Noodles, what could you possibly be expecting? And it's no disrespect against the goaltender. I know he's bounced around. But what do you think Aaron Dell's going to do for you? Honestly. Where the hell was he before this PTO? On his couch?
Yeah, more or less.
No, Jumbo was shooting on him in San Jose. There was pictures of Jumbo taking shots.
This is like asking Lou Brown to come and manage it's just like what?
Yeah, Jake Taylor was down in the Mexican.
Jake Taylor was down in the Mexican Pro League, icing his knees, and he got the call.
Hey, he got them he won the pennant, so maybe Aaron Dell does that.
Dude, you see guys after games with the double ice pack on their knees. That guy is 35 plus, guaranteed.
Well, you know who's
with 2 knee braces.
The king of that was Ben Roethlisberger. There's so many great pics of Roethlisberger by the end of the year. His career, he had 2 ice bags on his knee, 1 on his shoulder.
Dude, that guy walking through the tunnel after a game at the end with the Forrest Gump braces on his legs, it was insane. He could not move.
He got hit so hard throughout his career. It was crazy how many hits he took.
Dude, at the end, when his inside of his knees were touching while he was running at Giant Stadium, he was getting clobbered. Do you remember that game where
Yeah.
they were just waxing
It
him out
was
there?
it was honestly like it was Rocky's wife. You're like,
It
just go
was.
down. Like, please go down. Stop trying to pick up that first down. Like, you're not going to do it. All right, we've got some arbitration actually, and one of the arbitrations is in pertaining to what you just talked about, Noodles, in terms of goaltending around the league. So we're going to bring that up. We've got a Matthews arbitration, a goaltending arbitration. There's a bunch of different things we're going to get into this hour. We've got role play level of concern in about an hour. Oh, you're sticking around for the rest of this hour. Struddy's on today. Dregs is on. Jack's
What time's
coming up.
Struddy on?
Struddy's on at 5.
I'm staying.
You want to stay for that?
I got to.
All right, you're here through Struddy. We love it. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
Now, is that going to be a problem?
Yeah, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for them. It's outrageous, egregious, preposterous.
Overdrive Arbitration.
I've been wanting a piece of them for years.
You think you got a case?
Your face is my case.
All right, Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, Frankie Corrado. We're all going to play arbitration. We haven't done this in a long time. And it was coincidental. We brought up Samsonov earlier, his arbitration case. But I figured, with the four of us on, there's a lot going on in the league. See how many we can get to. But we all know how this is played, right? Hypothetical arbitration, and something is awarded. We go around the table. Would we take it or would we leave it? All right? Auston Matthews scored 2 more last night. He goes into arbitration. He is awarded 55 goals on the season. Does he take it or leave it?
Absolutely takes it. Does he want to say he's a 2-time 60-goal scorer? Does he want to say he's a 70-goal scorer? There's only one thing left. We've talked about young guys getting paid, and it must be the frustrating part about talking about structure and all this other garbage and catchphrases that are thrown around in the best league in the world. How are you talking to players about structure in that league is beyond me. I'm tired. I'm not going to go on a rant, though. There's only one thing left for Auston Matthews to do, and that's lead the charge come playoff time. So take the 55 goals, put it in the bank, and worry about playing in the playoffs, because that's all there is left to do.
All right.
I don't disagree. I agree on all aspects, but last night we did the math. This guy's on pace for 72 as of right now. It feels like he could cruise past 60, so I would say he'll probably leave 55, cruise past 60, maybe push for 65. I agree about the playoff success.
Well, what are
That's
you
what
taking? This is about what you're taking, Frank.
Matthews. I think it's 65. I think 65 for him.
He's
not
taking Matthews. That's what he's taking.
Taking
He's
I'm
Matthews.
saying
taking
it's
a
Matthews.
player.
This is how it works. No,
Yeah,
it's
you're
Matthews.
banking on him. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I'm banking on him getting to 65. He's on pace for 72. I think
Right.
55, he'd be like, I really cooled off towards the end of the year.
Noodles?
What did McDavid get last year? Was it 61?
63, I think he had.
3. So
64.
64, wow.
was it 4?
64.
Okay. I know. I agree with O. I don't think he cares. I think he just is, scores goals at will, and if he gets 55, great. Like, I know he wants to get 50 because it's just Leaf record books, all of that type of stuff. But I think it should be about winning, and that's where I think he'd probably wave on the 55 and go, I don't care what number this is. I care more about trying to win. So I think he passes on the 55. Because if he gets to 63, 64, 65, pushes up 70, or even gets to 52,
By the way,
55
is still a nice. It's cool.
well,
It's a great number.
That's a reason
big
number.
number.
I use that number as like Rick Five had the record before at 54. So that means like Matthews would just keep rewriting the Maple Leaf goal scoring record book. But I'm leaving it too because I think
I'm leaving it.
if he scores more goals, that's going to help him win that much more. Right? When this guy scores, they're in a better position to win. So you can marry the two. But yes, I think you want to chase a 2-time 60-goal scorer. There's only been 8 or 9 guys to ever do that in league history. And if McDavid raised the bar in terms of the modern era, which he did, he had 64. I think Ovi one year had 65. Like Matthews is in a conversation now where he's trending towards like chasing serious records, and every goal can count. And if you're on a heater right now, which he is, I say accumulate, build it up. 10 years from now, it might be when you take 40 before the season starts. Yes, you'll take it. But right now in his prime, best goal scorer in the world, I'm not taking 55.
You know what? Here's what I'll do with you, Hayes. I'll close the door and negotiate with you. You could go ahead and chase 70, but you got to promise come playoff time you're going to be the best player
All
on the
day.
ice.
All day. I agree with you. He doesn't have to play another game as long as he shows up in the playoffs. Yeah. But I say why not marry both? And let's be honest, the Hart Trophy's up for grabs. Like, if you're talking legacy here, I would think Kucherov's probably in the driver's seat right now, but they're not a guaranteed playoff team. And if they don't make the playoffs, he probably won't get it. McDavid, the same thing. The Oilers got to get in. If this guy scores 65, 110, 112 points, runs away with the Rocket, at a minimum, he'll be nominated again.
Well, he did it. He won the Hart at 60. If he scores 62 to 65, how does he not win it again? But like O said, when it's all said and done, it's going to come down to the playoffs for this guy, because that's the next thing on the docket.
Add another Hart Trophy, like that goes a long way in terms of legacy. All right, here's what we were talking about a little bit earlier. 32 teams in the league. The Maple Leafs walk into arbitration. They are awarded statistically the 16th best goaltending the rest of the season. 16th the rest of the season. Do they take it or leave it?
Oh, man, that's a good one. Oh. That really caught me in a...
Can I go first?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Take it. Because there are teams right now that can win with league average goaltending. And the Leafs are one of them, because what they need is they've outscored their issues in certain situations. The Columbus one, they get a point coming back, scoring 5 in the third period. So they know they can score. So they don't sit there and rely on their goaltending night in and night out. Mm-hmm. So if they get league average, which is 16th right in the middle, that bodes well for them, because they add in all the other stuff that they have. So I'm saying take it.
I'm taking it.
I'm saying, no, I'm leaving it, because you just said outscoring your problems and everything. Come playoff time, it's a 3-1 game. It's who's committed to the 3-1 game. I know Vegas is. I know Florida is. And guess what? They went to the finals last year, met each other in the finals. I'm not buying into this outscore your problems come playoff time.
It's
like all the fancy stuff and all that nonsense. It's not happening in the playoff time. Mitch Marner tried to play last night. It was just this backhand play. It looked incredible, but it was just like it didn't work. And none of those plays come close to working in the playoffs.
That one
it's
had
like
no
you
postal
can't have
code
that
on it.
giant dip. And somebody told me a couple of weeks ago, was that Thomas Holmstrom, that guy in Detroit? Yeah. His goal production, it never really dipped. You know why? Because he played the same greasy way every night. He was in front of the net. He got his ass kicked. Guys that want the fancy stuff, you see the dip in the playoff time because they can't adjust. That fancy stuff's not available. Yeah. That's why a guy like Holmstrom, flatliner, stays the same, competitive, goes to the net.
I'm going to leave it as well, because I don't know, if you go back in years past, they probably had the 16th best goaltender or even a little better, and they couldn't get out of the first round. And last year in the second round, the wheels really fell off because they ran into the hottest goalie in the league. So I don't know. We've seen it where average goaltending doesn't get it done for this group specifically. They probably need something closer to the top 5 in the NHL when it comes playoff time, which is going to be very difficult, admittedly.
Well, that's why I'm going to take it, because you got to be realistic with what you're dealing with here. Like Joseph Wall, Ilya Samsonov, Martin Jones is not a terrifying 3-pack in the league. Like, let's call it what it is. That's not an elite goaltending room right now. So if you can guarantee me, like, I know it's kind of a loser's mentality, because we're looking at it like, no, you got to get into the top 5. What if it drops to bottom 5? Then you're in big trouble. Like, if you get average, competent goaltending, it's not perfect, it's not ideal, but it's basically what I expected anyway. So what you're telling me is it didn't drop off, didn't go the other way.
Well, you know what I want the most? I want a healthy goaltender.
Yes,
I can't go into the playoffs, whether it be Samsonov or Jones or Wall, and the same thing that happened last year. I can't be thinking, is this guy going to get hurt on me? And it would drive me insane, man.
That's another separate conversation that I agree with you. Health is one thing, and a defined goaltender. I want a guy who's rocking, who's playing the best hockey he's played all year, and there's no question marks. Like, if he struggles, maybe when they hit the road in Game 3, the other guy goes in. No, I'd much prefer some stability there.
Right.
But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. All right. Alex Ovechkin walks into arbitration. He is awarded 20 goals on the season, which means 15 more the rest of the way. Does he take it or leave it?
No way. He leaves it. He leaves it. He could possibly score 26 to 27. You might think I'm nuts because it's not going well right now. But him as himself, their team, when we watched their team at the beginning of the year, how bad did we think they were?
Yeah,
really bad.
They were
very bad.
Garbage. I thought they were going to be the worst team in the league by a long shot.
Come around, though.
They've
Come around, and guess what's going to happen next?
Ovi
Ovi's
starts
going to come
scoring?
around.
Yeah.
I just think the way that guy shoots the puck and where there doesn't have to be a whole lot of movement involved in the power play, he is just going to start one time and a minute in the net on the power play. And I think it's going to become a lot.
What's he at right now?
He's at 5.
He's at 5.
I think he's gone like 13
Christmas.
games without a goal. It's
Yeah,
like
tonight will be
longest streak of his career
14th
by
game.
a mile.
Yeah,
I
tonight
think
will
at
be the 14th game.
I think at this point he might take 20 just to say like 15 goals the rest of the way, and then next year maybe he heats up. Like he had that one down year where he had 30 something, then he
32.
came back with another 50 goal year. It's like I don't know, this guy can have a down year and then come back and score 35, 40 next year. Who knows? Like this is not the end of the road for Ovi, so I think he'll leave it.
I'd like him to take it because I'd just like to see him chip off 20. But I think he would leave it because of what O said, like the ability to get hot. You know, this guy has had stretches where he's scored 9 goals in 4 games, and that, yes, it's an older, slower Ovi. The one thing I've noticed in watching Washington play is his shot still has velocity, but he doesn't get it in motion. So goaltenders are more set on him, if that makes sense, because he's not opening up, driving a lane, and then firing a 92-mile-an-hour snapshot or one-timer. He's stagnant. He's standing there. So goalies know he's there. They push across, and then they can handle that 90-mile-an-hour slap shot or whatever. So I've seen his game has slowed down. The velocity on a shot still has it, but it's getting it off with that speed, which beat goaltenders before. So
what I would
probably
do if I were
take
him,
the 20.
Noodles, if I were him, I would tell anyone that's going to pass him for the one-timer, give me a laser beam. Don't kind of guide it over to me. Give me a laser beam, and that might be a way I can get back on track. Because guys that can shoot the puck like him and Brett Hall, it doesn't matter. Like you can throw a missile slap pass over, and they're going to one-time it. So that's how I would start I'm not going to tell the greatest goal scorer of all to change, but anyone that's giving me a one-timer pass, make it a laser because I don't have – people are expecting it now, and I'm kind of off, so let me just tee off on some laser passes.
He might need a greasy one or two, right? He might need to just storm the net off his leg and in just to cool off, which is crazy to say for a guy who's been scoring.
Anyone needs those.
Everyone needs them to accumulate 50, 40 on a year. You need a bunch of those. I'm going to leave it because it's still early enough in the season. You know, like it's still very reasonable to expect him to score 20, 25 more this season and then get to 25 or 30 on a year. Might be a different story in a month, clearly. But he's still playing a lot of minutes. He's healthy. He's getting shots on net. I've been saying that for weeks, so I'm a broken record on this. But the levee will break for him at some point. And then when it does, he may accumulate a bunch, and then all of a sudden the numbers start to look a little bit differently. All right, the Oilers, the Edmonton Oilers, they've lost 3 in a row now. They walk into arbitration. They are awarded a guaranteed playoff spot, but a first-round exit. They take it or leave it.
Oh, man.
Guaranteed
These are tough
playoffs
ones today, man.
I think they're leaving it. I think they're leaving
I think
it.
you
Can't go into the season and say cup or bust, McJesus and Draisaitl saying cup or bust, and then say we'll accept the first playoff round exit, but we get in. No way. I think they would rather not make the playoffs than have that as a guarantee, Hayes.
Yeah,
I think they leave it. They're what are they? 7 points out with 3 games in hand.
That second wild card. The first wild card is separating a little bit, right? Like Nashville's been winning games. But yes,
they're still out of the teams in that bottom thing. I still think they're the best one.
I agree.
So I'd say they leave it.
I agree with you, but they're 7 back of Arizona with 2 games in hand. Like,
look at that, just ahead of Anaheim.
Yeah.
For anybody that thought that the Leafs were faking it to make it and accumulating points in a fashion they didn't like. Look at where the Edmonton Oilers are. They won 9 in a row, and they're still just above Anaheim.
No
so
kidding.
that's the alternative, all you people that want to criticize the way that they got these points. That's the alternative right there.
After seeing that, I'll say they'll take it. And last year, they were playing really well. They beat LA in the first round. They ran into a buzzsaw in Vegas, and it seemed like they didn't really, not that they didn't have a chance in that series, but you didn't get the belief that they were ever going to win that series. And that's who they probably have to play in the first round this time around. And they're going to get their heads caved in again if they play Vegas with the way things have gone this season. So take it. Take your nice story. You crawled back, you made the playoffs, and that was it. You ran into Vegas. See you later.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to leave it because I don't think they'd be granted the ability of saying it's a great story. right? Even if they just creep in, people will be like, "What? We congratulate you for that?" You know, like you can't like if Ottawa Stormback got in and got smoked, it would be like, "Wow, what a story! That's incredible! Like what perseverance." I don't think the Oilers are going to be allotted the you're a team of perseverance because of who they are. It'll still be almost a backhanded compliment to an extent, and they have to believe there's more there. I think we all believe there's more there.
Well, it's 55 games.
But I'm saying who they are, Noodles. I'm not talking about the standings. I'm saying the team. There's more there. But
there is.
It's kind of, they've lost 3 in a row. That loss against Tampa, they Vasilevsky stood on his head. I thought Florida dummied them on Saturday night. I personally, watching that game, that was not like, wow, this is Edmonton. Knobloch's got the move. And like Florida went in there and was like, we're not losing this game, and they didn't. And then Edmonton loses again last night.
They're one bad streak away from actually realistically missing.
But that's why this arbitration, as goofy as it might sound, they've lost 3 in a row. Let's say they keep losing another 2 or 3. All of a sudden, you're like, man, you're 10 points out with 50 games to go.
Yeah, and they just had their heater streak where they won 9 in a row. Like, how many more times can they possibly do that?
It's not easy. All right, arbitration. The Ottawa Senators walk in. And they are awarded 2 options, so this is a little bit different. It's not a take it or leave it. It's you got to pick which one you would take if you're running the operation. The Ottawa Senators walk into arbitration, and they battle. The first option is they miss the playoffs by a point. They battle back, miss the playoffs by a point, or they finish last place overall. Which one would you take?
It cannot be last overall, man. Do you know how much losing that means that they do throughout the rest of the season, and how painful that will be on the players' mindsets and the fan base? That is insane to think of them going to be a lottery leading team.
What does missing by a point do, though? What does that mean?
I don't care.
It gives them
what do you think Macklin Celebrini is going to do for the organization? He's not going to get him out of the ditch next year.
You're probably right. You're probably right, but missing by 1 point, I don't know what that means either. Where if you give me a chance at Celebrini, and what it does, this is why I would take last place. With the new owner in Steos, then I can define, I got real problems here. I'm not fooled by, battled back and missed by a point, right? Last year they battled back at the end of the year and they missed. Missing by a point when you miss the playoffs.
What do you think he's going to be fooled by missing by 1 point? Tell me that.
I think what that'll say is maybe Jacques Martin is the guy. Wow, these guys really have it in them. It was a slow start. It was DJ Smith's fault. And I just don't know if there's value in that. Where if you miss and you got a chance to really add it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win the lottery. Maybe that should have been the actual arbitration. Is you miss by a point or first overall pick? Because if it's that option, for me, it's the pick every single day. If it's a lost season anyway, which it is, I think they're basically punting anyway, based on a lot of what they're saying, learning. We got to get on the ice and practice, blah blah blah. You might as well give me a supreme talent.
I'll say it again.
True acceptance of who they are.
I think they got to look into that mix of players, because sometimes they say in a playoff series 28-year-olds beat 23-year-olds. But you know what? The 23-year-olds should be pushing towards the playoffs, and that shouldn't be in question. They should be sniffing it out. Maybe you get kicked in the junk by a 28-year-old in a 7-game series that's ready to win, but you should be at least getting there.
I think it's missed by a point.
I say it's missed by a point, too.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Noodles,
Frankie.
I just think it's the easy way out for this group to say, we're just going to pack it in. It's almost like they need to go, just like we talked about with Samsonov. You got to go through the dark days. You got to go through the muck. And maybe they get their hearts crushed at the end of the year when they miss by 1 point and say, that really sucked. I don't want to feel that ever again. Let's get it together for next year. It just seems like it'd be taking the easy way out.
Frankie, how many times could they have possibly said to them that really sucked already?
They've been living in the dark ages for 6 years.
But they've never had the pressure before. They've never been
no
right
pressure
there.
If you battle back and you miss by, I guess technically it means some meaningful games, but that's what does that even mean? You've dug such a hole. That means you're battling, you're grinding, you're doing the math.
I disagree. These guys some of them are 21 years old. They got to think of what Marner and Matthews and those guys were like at 21. They were lucky to make the playoffs, but they still had to learn. Remember Babcock would say, these kids have families and, these kids are still learning. I think they have to go through this pain to grow up.
I'm not buying that. I'm not buying the learning garbage in that league. I get it. There's some growing pains or whatever, but to go into the NHL and not understand what structure is, Everybody always said it's not a learn league, but now all of a sudden it is because guys just don't want to do it. That's the problem. It's insane.
Well, we'll come back with a team that has turned the corner. There's one more left. But Ottawa, they got Giroux there. They got Tarasenko. They got Chychrun. Korpisalo's a vet in net. Anyway, we'll come back. Yeah. We'll continue arbitration. Struddy's coming up. Role play level of concern right around the corner as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Jason Strudwick coming up in about 10 minutes. Role play level of concern still to come. Raptors in action tonight. Denver in town. You got Jamal Murray back in Toronto for the first time as a champion. Should be fun tonight. Jokic likely putting on a clinic tonight.
Let's just keep giving those Raps a hall pass. Jays too.
Yeah.
Stink the joint out. Nobody cares. The Leafs lose a game, the whole city burns down. It's insane.
It is different. It is
These guys
very
make
different.
9 times the amount the hockey players do. But it's just, go ahead. You stink the joint out. Not a problem. Nothing to see here. Leafs lose one game. Are you going to get fired?
I don't think the Jays got a free pass. The Jays got crushed, and they won 89 games. They did what the Leafs have been doing for years.
But you know what they got crushed for? They didn't get crushed for performances. No one was going up to Vladdy saying, hey, Vladdy, what's up? You know what got discussed the most? Taking the pitcher out of the game.
Yeah.
The individual players were never broken down. It's like, what's up with this guy? Why couldn't they hit all year long? It was, why did you take the pitcher out? And that's where the vitriol was. It was that Ross Atkins and then Schneider, the pitcher. It's just like, okay, we stunk the joint out. We can't hit all year. Don't worry about it.
And now it's Ohtani not coming here, and they haven't done anything yet. But
$0 they spent.
It's been a weird offseason. Like, no one's signing anybody. Everyone's just waiting for something to happen. All right, Struddy's coming up. Oh, you're sticking around. We got role play level of concern. I got one more arbitration feature in the Vancouver Canucks. We'll get to that. Devon Taves calling out his teammates last night.
Wow.
That bodes well for Ottawa.
Yeah, that's what you want, playing Colorado tomorrow night. That'll go over well. So that more still to come. And back into the Leaf loss last night, them against Buffalo tomorrow. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.